I'm not exactly in the greatest of moods. I had a script I was working on for a video that I wanted to record parts of today, but I wasn't able to finish it due to some distractions. We have another person who's playing some loud music in another room, and I'm probably going to get copyright struck for that. And I'll always marvel at the idea that people can claim to be so wealthy and so prosperous in terms of their place of employment, but then for some reason they can never invest in a set of headphones. I think that's very ironic. God, it's just it never stops. And I would put my mouse on the mute button because I'm expecting to get interrupted. Because every single time I do a stream on Saturday, I get interrupted. For some reason, I can't just be left alone for an hour or two. I have to have someone announce that they're leaving, as if I couldn't tell from the door closing or being locked. So I said, it's all really annoying. Anyways, one of the videos I was thinking of doing is called "Are All Modern Women the Same?" And in that video, I was going to talk about how because I've always, and I've said this a few times before, I've maintained the view that women in general did not act the way they do now because, as far as I can tell, there were no romance groups. Where there was a bunch of men talking about how hard it was to get a date, or it's just any like slight basic thing from from chicks in general. And now you have these the ones that exist currently, who just sort of make a whole bunch of ridiculous request and waste people's time and get involved in these activities that go on forever, and they sit there and expect you to put up with this stuff. And I was saying, when I say modern chicks, you have to really specify it, because there are people who try to say that you think they're all the same. And I said, well, I think in the past they were much more different than they are now. I believe that. And it's all based around the idea that, if I go and look at all of these groups, and the general consensus is that it is, I don't want to say commonplace, but it happens very often that some man will talk to a woman and then she doesn't reciprocate. And then he has this happen repeatedly to the point of, just getting sick of it. And then speaks to some people who share the same disillusion. So I don't know how you can say there's something wrong with men, and then you have, because I've explained before, if you flip things around and it was a bunch of them getting rejected over and over by men, people would say there's something wrong with that. But because it's chicks, it gets legitimized, and people actually try to tell you that you know, you're the problem. Which I still think is really ridiculous. So that's one video I'm considering doing. I don't know if I'll actually make it or not. I only have about a page of it written so far. Because again, I was trying to do that other one. It just really sucks because I think the idea is decent, but there's too many. There's stuff you have to explain to really make it work. Also, Roe v. Wade got overturned, and I saw the Twitter outrage, and um, it's one of those things where in the past I expected to be more shocked and and have some more emotional response to it. But I really didn't feel that much at all. I mean, I guess maybe you could say it's because I live in a state where they're going to keep it going, abortion no matter what. You could also say it's because it doesn't affect me because I don't have uh unwanted pregnancies with chicks that I'm not married to or in a relationship with. So, none of this stuff is something that I would ever need access to. But, I still think it's probably not going to work. What I figure is that you're going to have people that go to another state, like mine, to get their, to go to the chop and shop. Um, yeah, I don't see it sticking. I think it'll probably if they're able to get these other states to reverse abortion rights, you're going to see a lot of people just travel by plane or some other capacity to get it done. So it's going to make it a little bit harder to access, but not too much. You'll be surprised at the lengths people will go to get rid of a kid they don't want. I don't even want to mention the coat hangers. Jesus. Oh God. Yeah, I was pretty upset yesterday. Uh, I had an interview with another place, and they said something about what the service was. I just kind of was just just thinking about that other place, which, by the way, the one from last week that I turned down because they wanted me to memorize like a whole page worth of stuff. They sent me an email, like, I guess, finalizing my termination of employment, and then on the email, because when you put the date of something, you're supposed to put a comma after the date, and then space between the year. They put no space between the year and the date. So it's like basically their document looks like something a child would have written because of that blatant error that they messed up on. I don't know how you can fire somebody from somewhere they never worked, but I guess they found a way. When I saw that thing on Friday, I was like, "Are you serious?" That's really comedic that like all of these places have something that sucks that they hide when you like apply for them, and then after you start working there, you see the ridiculousness. Because, like I mentioned at the second one, no one said anything about, "Oh, we have this website where people go on there and complain, and if one person gives you a bad review, it's the same thing as getting three good reviews." No one ever mentioned that. Jesus. I heard they were also going after the Civil Rights Act. I mean, good luck. Here's the thing, I think a lot of the right wingers don't care as much about civil rights as they do abortion rights. As in, I think you're more likely to see them use the religious angle to get rid of Roe v. Wade, but I don't see enough of them siding on getting rid of the Civil Rights Act. So I don't think it's gonna work. And like I said, they're just wasting their time anyway because you will see people when they want something and you ban it, and it's like a common thing that people want, which is to abort children they don't want. They'll find a way. they're if they really think they're gonna stop people from having abortions just because they make it illegal, they're in for a rude awakening. You're gonna see coat hanger sales go up, people purposely falling on their stomach. I mean, it's all kind of stuff that is gonna get pretty graphic. Again, they don't realize that when you have a law for 50 years and then you try to get rid of it or you get rid of it, um, it's you're too far gone at that point. So it'll be real fun to watch them actually think they stopped something. I remember when I was in I think it was 10th or 11th grade, I had like this one dream where I had some girlfriend that I got pregnant. I always remember that like in the dream I like wanted her to keep it. And I remember distinctively that it's so funny how at any stage I could never see abortion being a thing I sought or wanted or needed. Because the I guess the idea I've always had, as maybe it could be due to my religion, is that if you make a mistake or cause the creation of another human life, you should be expected to. And I'm not saying that other people have to. This is my opinion, like my stance on my own events. I think if you create another person, regardless of the circumstances, there should be some type of penalty. You shouldn't just be able to like, oh, I was young, I made a mistake. Here's a human life. I've never believed in that. Like I think other people should have the right to, do whatever they want with their own body. But I just on a personal level, I've never liked that I can mess up, quote unquote, to that extent and cause someone else to exist that I can't take care of. It's just that's why I said I've never been able to understand people who say they make that mistake because I've mentioned before. You have a lot of people that purposely don't use condoms because they don't like the way it feels during intercourse, so they would rather get a better feeling from screwing than make sure they don't have a kid they can't afford to take care of or don't want. Like that's their twisted logic. You would never see me around the damn clinic. That's why I said it doesn't affect me because even in a hypothetical where I had some woman with an unwanted, quote unquote unwanted pregnancy, it usually I really can't see any scenario where I would want to keep it. So it would be the bimbo that decides to terminate it. Because remember, what the man wants never matters under any circumstance. God, I swear. I can't wait for somebody in the comment section to write, I can't believe you support taking away abortion rights. I didn't say that. I said that I personally am not affected by it because it's not something I would use. But I recognize it's an issue where there's a lot of complexities and certain circumstances. Like I really get disgusted that you actually have some people who think if a woman gets molested by a man, she's supposed to have his kid. Like I think that's really gross. But you have people who think all kind of stuff I don't. I remember I met this one guy in the Discord server that said he thinks chicks should have kids that are by their rapist because supposedly the baby could be good or could be a great person and he was a kid. And I was like, I don't care about his tragic backstory. Enabling a molester to have to creating a child for someone that does something like that, I think is disgusting. So, it's another one of those things I don't understand. And in that case, I really don't want to understand because it's just, It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, they can take their ridiculous logic and shove it somewhere. And that'll be a good video. Are modern women all the same? It sure feels like it. Because I already know we with the video you have the prologue, and then you have to explain what you mean by modern, and you have to mention it's like ones that are like mid-30s to lower than that. Because I don't really see any chicks in their 40s acting like this. Because I remember I mentioned that in my lifetime I've never seen. I'm talking about like people I actually know in real life. I've never seen two people under the age of 40 something get married. So that's why I was saying that I think chicks at that age know what they want, um, because they lived long enough to where when they were an adult when social media really started to take off, so they don't just sit online all day. But like I said, I'm just so tired of. I mean, you can't keep getting the same result from the same group of people and then be told that they're not all the same and believe it. So, oh, that'll be a real fun video to make. We're gonna put a question mark at the end of the title, and we're gonna have people that are trying to say that I'm trying to say that they're all the same. That like, and it's. I'll keep explaining. For every one of them that you have that actually will go on a date with somebody, you have another 200 that will just waste your time, and you can get mad and you can get angry, but in your heart, you know it's all true. No, in the video, I was going to talk about this new term I have called artificial intimacy, where you have a lot of chicks that will claim they feel a connection with you or they want to be friends with you. But then if you actually look at the way they treat you, it is, and we all have our different ideas of what a friendship is, but it's not becoming of something that you would consider to be the actions of a person that supposedly likes you, to some friendly degree. Like I don't have any person I would consider my friend that I don't say anything to for a whole month. I don't message them. I don't try to call them. Stuff like that's weird because I mentioned that with Triple L. That was a person who, while supposedly not having an issue with me, went to another state and then wouldn't say a word, wouldn't reach out at all for an entire month, while supposedly not being in having a problem with me, which is why it was all the more weird. It's like that's what you do. You go to another state for like an extended period of time, and then you pretend that you don't have cell phone service or you make up a bunch of excuses. Just that's why I said that I get tired of them, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of times with modern interactions I have, not modern but recent interactions I've had with them, it's usually me that cuts it off, like that just says forget it, because I recognize it's going nowhere, and you get tired of being friend zoned, you get tired of just the same old song and dance. And now we live in an era where chicks actually try to pretend that they're victims because they have men approaching them. And I make it very clear in the video that, I can, if at my most empathetic, slightly convey a basic sense of understanding at the idea of someone going to a store or a market or some other place, and then, oh, here's this man that I don't like that's coming up and trying to ask me for my number, and oh, I went outside and there's another man trying to ask me. But when you're on social media, you determine who you want to speak to, you determine if you want to interact with them, you determine if you want to show what you look like or let people know what your gender is. And you don't when you're online and you get those supposed unwanted interactions from men, it's self-inflicted. Like, I can't be empathetic toward them because they put themselves on these sites with that are male dominated. Let's call it like it is, and then they're surprised when men show attraction to them. And then what's worse is that, like, I always believe this: if men are so obnoxious as far as like approaching a woman on the internet, wouldn't the woman get off the internet? Because as far as I know, there's no job that requires me to have a Twitter or Instagram. So I don't understand it. But that's why I said that they're really good at making it seem like they're victims, and everyone is like doing something to them even when they're actually not. I'll never understand how you can be asked out and that like that's like an offensive thing that hurts you. I don't get. And I remember with Triple L, she was like, I wasn't saying it was wrong or bad if you approached me. It's like, but you don't warn someone about something that's not bad or wrong. Like, I have some, I guess, kids in the neighborhood. They knocked their ball over my into my backyard. You know, I didn't have to warn them. Don't kick your ball over here again because if you do, I'm going to call the police. Because it doesn't matter to me. It's whatever. That's why I said if something is not wrong, why do you have to give a warning about it? They talk out of both sides of their backside. Yeah, I don't know. I really, and again, I'm not trying to say I support getting rid of Roe v. Wade. I don't. But for me personally, it's never something I've really felt I needed. Um, like all the I don't want kid talk comes from the chicks, as we've highlighted on here before. So every time I picture a scenario, I can't see myself going, "Oh yeah, you should terminate this pregnancy." I can't like imagine myself, you know, believing that or coming to that position. Oh, so it's really not something that affects me all that much. Oh, Jem, well, we know you heard the news. So listen, let me explain you what's happened with the documentary. The one I told you about last week, I'm having problems with C-SPAN and their stupid website that I can't download the videos off. I have to screen record it. So instead of doing that one, I sorry, I'll do another one. And then with that one, with the other one, I finished half the writing of it, but I need like until next week to wrap it up. So that's why you haven't gotten it. I don't want you to think you've been cheated or hoodwinked or bamboozled or scammed or conned or duped. I'm just explaining there's been some production difficulties because C-SPAN's website is terrible. They have nowhere you can download videos. You have to stick the screen recorder in front of something for 2 hours. So I hope you're not too upset. I hate that website. I could like they're a really good archive for stuff, but as far as actually trying to like show clips from there, it's bad. So I'm just explaining to you that there's been some production difficulties, and I hope you don't get too upset and try to say that you've been conned or make a video about me about how much you've been lied to. Hey, what's that other network that's really good? Free Speech TV, where they go and like they actually interview progressives and talk about different things happening in the world with Democracy Now. That's probably the only news program I kind of miss because they actually discuss like a variety of topics that are just not talked about by cable news usually. No, it just really sucks that I don't know, I always like call-in shows where you can call a number and actually and like talk to a politician, like speak to them. Because Fox doesn't have that, CNN doesn't have that, MSNBC doesn't have that. Usually with those, you can actually try to, even something as simple as a phone call makes the events feel more real and like you actually matter and you can have what you want to discuss actually talked about. No, C-SPAN. Out of anything on TV news related, that's the one I dislike the least because they don't have like, they actually like let people come on there and you can call them or give your position. I just like the participation because you don't get that from cable news. They just run their little stupid show and you have to watch it or else get out. No, they don't because first of all, most politicians don't even go around most voters. If you look at local elections, you'll have maybe 20%, 30, 40% of people that can vote actually participate. So they know that they can get away with their name recognition or, whoever's donating to them putting their ad on TV and people will just vote for the person that they recognize instead of anyone that actually like goes out and campaigns. They have no accountability whatsoever. All about opinions and opinions. Yep. But if you notice that with a lot of local elections, they like people who win a lot of times are benefited from low voter turnout where there's like almost nobody even shows up in the first place to vote. In Rome, politicians fear the voters. Over here, the voters fear the politicians. They're worried if they vote for the Senate, they're gonna have to get into some new conflict with some country they never heard of before. I'm telling you, the only time I ever heard American news talk about Ukraine before this year was when what was it? Was it Ukraine annexing Crimea? This happened like 6 or 7 years ago. That was the only time I heard of Ukraine before this year. Yeah, they win because no one shows up to even participate. Yeah, Russia taking Crimea. And wasn't it Ukraine that got annexed? There was something with Ukraine that it was while Obama was in office, like in his second term, I remember. That's the only time I heard of Ukraine before this year. Nobody was talking about them at all. Someone told me that when you run for office, that like all your stuff comes out, but actually, if you really think about it, that's not true because presidential elections get covered every single day by like CNN, MSNBC, like all the major networks, but local elections, whether it's for the House, the Senate, for governor, you won't see that on national news probably all the way up until election night, unless one of the candidates has some really bad, disgusting scandal. You won't see it at all because people don't care if it's not happening near them. They're not invested. Right, but I'm saying what's really funny is people say that when you run for office, you're gonna like have all your stuff come out. But really the only office that people pay a whole bunch of attention to the candidates are the presidential ones. Like you don't really see any background digging when someone runs for like city assemblyman, like for assemblyman or city council. Some other look at the black town who had all my. I'm just saying, I thought that was really funny. They're like, when you run, everything about you comes out. It's like, okay, I'm running. When's it coming out? Because nobody cares. Like, again, the only one where you see a whole bunch of like digging and digging and digging is presidential ones. Other than that, you don't really like see any hard because remember a lot of people when someone's running for governor, They don't even like ask them, what are your positions? What do you feel about this issue? The person just comes out, they say, here are my generalized broad statements on things that I think matter. And then people vote for the person if they like them or think they're smart or whatever, or their pedigree is good. The worst is the electoral college. Oh, by the way, Jim, have you noticed that out of the last, let's see, 2004, 8, 12, of the last six presidential elections, the Republicans have only won the popular vote one time. Have you noticed that? Because remember, Gore got the most votes in 2000, and then Bush got the most votes in against Kerry, and then Obama got more votes than either McCain or Romney, and Trump got less votes than both Hillary and Biden, which I thought would be impossible. So you notice that like out of your last, that's why they want the electoral college, because if they don't have that anymore, it's over. You're not going to see a Republican unless it's some really like well-known person, what was it, Arnold, when he ran for governor over here. You're not going to see a Republican ever win president again if they get rid of that. We need third party. Dude, I don't know why they can't. Because you know what gets me? Like, you've had Republicans get the popular vote before. Like, I know the older Bush, he won it against Dukakis in '88. So he would have, been president regardless of the like 40 something, was it 40 state win he had over him. But it's so weird because it's like you guys are so unbelieving in your candidate that you don't think they can get more votes than the other major party person. No, that really should tell you something about the confidence that the GOP has in its own candidates. On the national stage, they think they're not going to be able to get as many votes as the other person ever. They are idiots that keep pretending to be to be the religious right. You know what was really funny? Somebody made a point about how like Trump was, when he ran the first time, was like running as like the Christian values, right? You get married and you don't break the law. And then his campaign spokeswoman was, and I'm again, this isn't a problem for me, but just a good point, was someone who had a kid out of wedlock and who got arrested for shoplifting. So every time she posts some like major thing on Twitter, people put up her mugshot. I thought that was a good point. I'm like, yeah, he's supposed to be the religious right Christian value guy. Why is his campaign spokeswoman somebody that had a kid out of wedlock and got arrested for trying to steal some makeup? Like I thought it was a decent enough point. Trump was not that bad. He was a patriot. Well, I already told you after the younger Bush, it's just been a repeat of a lot of the stuff he did. Like same surveillance state, multiple wars, just all that stuff is still going. Dude, I'm already like annoyed at the prospect of having to do some 4 or 5 hour documentary on Trump's presidency. I really don't want to get pushed into talking about all that stuff right now. You don't know how aggravating that's going to be, like, because the thing about a lot of these different ideas is that I wasn't there for it, but with him and Obama and Bush, I vividly remember all the insane stuff that happened. And with him, it's going to be easier because you don't have to like break it up into two terms. But again, like most of my problems with him are that a lot of the stuff he did was either continued the worst stuff of Obama and Bush, or ended or got involved in stuff that was even worse in some cases to me. Dude, I with Bush, it would be two parts. The first part would be his, like, him growing up, and then when he ran for Congress the first time, and then when he was governor of Texas, and when he ran in 2000. And then the second part would be him as president. We would talk about the warnings to 9/11 that he ignored, and Hurricane Katrina, and the subprime mortgage crisis, and starting the longest war in American history. I mean, it. I don't know how anyone like looks back at him and is like, "Oh, he was good." And like I said, man, if it's so interesting because if I did one on his dad, the older Bush, it would be the complete reverse tone. I'd be like, hey, this was something he did that helped the environment. This was something he did that actually, you know, didn't last forever and wasn't insane. And it's sad to see this good man overshadowed by his horrible son. So it's really interesting how like with the older Bush, it would be about how he was underrated. With the younger Bush, it would be like, yeah, he got his 18% approval rating. He deserved it. Should have been even lower. Yeah, it was chaos. Like I remember the subprime mortgage crisis, all those people getting kicked out of their houses. Yeah, the older Bush had integrity. That's why when he broke his promise to raise taxes, it was to save the economy. And remember, the Gulf War didn't last 10 or 20 years. It started under him and it ended under him. Literally, the only thing he did I would criticize him for is the war on drugs, and he didn't even start that. So I'm not too. I would probably say he's the last president I actually like, and thought was genuinely had some integrity and wanted to do things that were decent. Yeah. Well, he was a very experienced diplomat. He was ambassador to the UN, CIA director. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't some random guy that got good off his dad. That BS for on drugs. Hey, like I said, that's the only thing he did I didn't like. Everything else ranges from good to okay. Dude, if you look hard enough, you'll find something with everybody that you can have like an issue with. Like if I did a document on FDR, I'd be like, oh man, we had Social Security and all the New Deal, but then during World War II, he interned Japanese people because of some ridiculous nativist belief that they would be loyal to a country they didn't even live in. So I'm just saying, if you look hard enough, you can have an issue with everybody. Hell, you have people have an issue with me for just saying I don't want to talk to chicks anymore. like actually writing whole paragraphs about that as if it's this consequential thing that matters, to them. Jem, I hope you understand how insane that is. Like, imagine just saying you don't want to talk to women anymore. You don't hit them, you don't beat them, just don't talk to them anymore. And that's like enough for random guys to like start typing stuff to you and trying to insult you and all this other weird stuff. But during that time, that was mentality concentration camps. Well, I mean, sure. Uh, and like I said, I like FDR. Again, like with most historical figures that I studied, there's something usually I don't like, but it doesn't override everything else they did that I did like. Like you actually have people who try to say that Martin Luther King had affairs on his wife, and that taints his legacy. Like, but that doesn't erase what he did as leader of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So I don't, it's not enough. It's just one of those things where it's like, well, I guess I don't like this, but it doesn't change anything to me. I don't think that's crazy. You do what you do on how you feel with women. Stop. Yeah. Hey, you're gonna say someone's gonna end up getting me flagged. They're gonna be like, This is indicative of the viewers that watch him." I mean, you know what? If you know the screwed up part, because we live in such a demented era where people online will get angry with you over anything. You'll have less people get mad at, like, less conservatives get mad at you for saying that Stalin was your hero than if you said Obama was. Like, if you say a literal dictator was your hero over an American president that they don't like, they'll get less upset with you. That's how, like, insane, because the thing is, you have some I mean, you have Trump supporters. Yeah, obviously you have Trump supporters. Like, I don't go around messing with them. I'm not on their channels. I'm not like trying to argue with any of them. I just kind of don't really care. Um, and it's like you have people who are so imposing of their views on others that they actually like come to their channel and try to argue with them, or they come on a stream. And I'm like, I'm really, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not a politician. I'm not an elected official. I don't really owe you an answer on why I like or don't like someone or some position. It's really, that's why I've always said that this stuff is weird to me in terms of how some people are so invested in it that they can't live with the idea that someone doesn't think the way they do. So they have to like impose their view on you, or at least attempt to anyway, before they get banned. After the crowd, I don't care about their feelings. From peasants to superpower in 25 years. I'm still laughing at what was it, Chester A. Arthur, where he got fired by Rutherford Hayes and had no job, and then he got picked to be Garfield's vice president, and then Garfield got assassinated, and then Arthur was president. So he went from having no job to being president in 3 years. That's a hell of a comeback story. Just like with Nixon, like he thought it was over when he lost the governor of California race in '62, to where he even said it's my last press conference. And then 6 years later, he came back and ran for president, became one of only two people who were elected president while not being a sitting vice president. One of the greatest political comebacks ever. He thought he was done. I already talked about that earlier, my opinion on Roe. I think it's not going to work. They're probably going to have people that go to other states to get it done. Um, but I don't think it's going to mean that much longer. Like when people want access to getting rid of kids they don't want, they'll use other illegal, more extreme methods to go about doing it. You can't live in a country that has legalized something for almost a quarter century and then expect to just like snap your fingers and get rid of it, and everybody's like, okay, I'll do that now. Jem says, look at Abe, no one thought he had a chance. Well, I mean, this was a guy that lost 8 elections. He was the first candidate of the Republicans, this new political party, and he ended up winning. I really have to like go and remind myself constantly of how many elections he lost. Like I remember he lost the Senate race against Stephen A. Douglas. It was at 1858. Um, and then some other House races. They are delusional. Yeah, you can't have a law for that long and then snap your fingers and get rid of it and think people are just going to be okay and are not going to try and say forget your law, um, and try to like look for ways of getting around it. You're definitely going to see people again use coat hangers and other types of, I don't really like talking about the process of getting rid of kids, but you know what I mean. They're going to do things to ensure they can have it anyway. You know what? I always remember if I ever do an Obama documentary, because I always like mention Supreme Court when I do. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do Taft, because he appointed more Supreme Court justices than almost anybody. Like it was like 6 or 7. Um, I really would love to mention that they tried to get Ginsburg to retire during Obama's tenure, and she refused. And if she hadn't, we would have never gotten Barrett, who was one of the justices that voted for this. So, God, we're going to be paying for that stubbornness on her part for the next 20, 30 years. That's really crazy to think about. That whole last Supreme Court nomination would have never happened if she had retired when Obama wanted her to. Yeah, her, Kavanaugh, and Gorsuch. I hope you like their portraits because you're gonna be staring at them for a while. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'll probably be dead by the time they get off the court because they're all like early, like late 40s, early 50s, and you know the kind of money that these people have. They're gonna be probably in their 90s at earliest. Before one of them retires or croaks. So yeah, it's over. Yeah, he I don't have a problem with Obama's Supreme Court record. In fact, it's one of the things I'm most sympathetic toward him for because I remember the Merrick Garland hypocrisy, right? You can't nominate a Supreme Court justice in a presidential election year. And then what did Trump do? Nominate a Supreme Court justice. Not only in a presidential election year, literally less than 2 months before the election. So, these people are hypocrites. They take one side on when it's their turn and switch over the other time. Let me read what this person said. I'm from Europe and it's kind of crazy how I'm just looking at America as turning to Christian fundamentalism. Oh, we've been like that for a long time. Like trying to have people like campaigning on putting prayers in schools, just a whole bunch of stuff where we're supposed to be a government that doesn't have an impartiality toward religion that has a excuse me a non-bias toward religion, but because a lot of our lawmakers are Christians, they want to impose their views on others. And I'm Catholic, but I don't care if someone doesn't pray during school. you know they can do it at home or they can do it not at all if they don't want to. No, I firmly believe in the separation of church and state. Obama should have called McConnell to the Oval and ream him to pass Garland. Tell you that I don't know what was wrong with them. Like if you saw the way the Democrats were with Bush, and then you saw the way the Republicans were with Obama, you'll know how night and day different it was. Because Bush had a lot of gifts. He had Ted Kennedy, who was like always trying to work with Republicans to get things done, like with No Child Left Behind. Um, and McConnell saw that Bush got reelected because he was given victories during his first term. So he was like, okay, well, if I want Obama to not get a second term, I'll be opposed to every single thing he does from when he takes office all the way until he leaves. So that's how we got started with this obstructionism. Yeah, no motive. What's the point? In fact, there's motive to not collaborate because when you don't, you can say, "Oh, look, that party you just voted in, they haven't passed anything, even though they need a certain number of votes, and we'll never be content with anything because we purposely want them to fail so we can get more seats." Yes, that's why they don't. Like I said, there are plenty of Democrats who will work with Republicans, but there aren't that many Republicans that will work with Democrats. And that's one of the reasons I was on the Collins train because she has multiple votes that are different from other Republicans. And she's had multiple votes that are different from them for several years now. So uh, it's gotten to a point where when she votes for her own party, people get more mad if she votes against them. Oh my God. Secularism in America is going to be killed by the Supreme Court. Yeah. See, that's the problem with having unelected officials that determine policy. You can't punish them. You really can't do anything other than protest, which is still you question the effectiveness of, because at the end of the day, they're going to be on those seats until they die or they retire. So, we're really in a doom state when it comes to these people. You're going to be stuck with them for a long time. I think Trump pull a few boss moves on the Dems, though. Well, the Democrats are clowns. They're weak. Like Pelosi, Schumer. I mean, these are not affect. Literally, every time somebody praises Pelosi, the only thing they can mention that she did that was strong are good. Like the only thing they can mention of policy substance was Obamacare. Literally, no other bill has she passed or been responsible for actually doing something to help. She has one bill under her name. McConnell actually is a really good Senate Majority Leader for conservatives. You got three Supreme Court justices under him. You got one of them blocked by that Obama nominated. You had what's that stupid tax cut bill that Trump passed, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, whatever that thing was called from his first year. So um, I'd say McConnell's a lot more of an effective leader and strategist for his team, even if I think they suck. Oh, I would love for her to be just fired or impeached or gotten rid of. I tell you, the only reason she's the lead Democrat is because she raises the most money when they fundraise. Imagine how much of an oligarchy you live in, where all these lawmakers, was it 300 members of the House, and the one that the Democrats have as their leading person is a lady who's not a great speaker, who's not a great lawmaker. The only reason she is on top is because she raises the most money. But you know what? Modern elections are just a game of money. The majority of the time when the person wins, it's the person who raised the most money. Um, and it's like that's one of the reasons I was so reluctant to get involved, because I'm not rich. I don't have, and then you also have name recognition, so it's like very difficult to even fundraise. Like that's why I said that this stuff, it always sounds like, oh, you just want to run, you just run. But this isn't like it was 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, where people could just get up off their couch, launch a campaign, and they actually have a decent chance if they're charismatic and they can convince people, etc. Where it actually, the candidate and their positions actually mattered. It really is just a game of money at this point. It's just people who have a whole bunch of cash. Why do you think all these candidates are old as hell? Because it's just people running around with coins. The reason most lawmakers have a college degree has nothing to do with their intelligence. And I've been over this before. You have plenty of people that think Hillary is stupid, even though she went to Yale. You have plenty of people who think Trump is stupid, even though he went to the University of Pennsylvania, or Skadden, whatever that school's called. It's because the more money that these people have, the more ties to elitist groups, like those different college sororities, right? Where they know each other for like 20, 30 years, and these people will pour millions into the campaigns of their friends so that when they run for office, they can do them a favor. They can say, hey, I helped out my buddy. They have all it. That's why it's so funny that people all actually think, oh yeah, this person lost because they were inexperienced or they weren't a good kid. No, if I ran and most likely would lose, it will have almost nothing to do with my skills as a candidate, because I'll be the first one to knock on everybody's door and say, hey, I'm running and can you sign my thing? It'll have entirely to do with the other person out fundraising me, more people knowing who they are, them having endorsements from the California Democratic Party establishment. It's so funny. Like there's all these external factors that people don't think about because they've never done this stuff themselves, and they barely pay any attention to it. They get ambassadorships for some. Yes, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Yeah, they do favors for each other all the time. God, I don't know why this person can't stop this. exactly the connections. Um, I'm originally from Turkey, and we have this same problem with Islam. The Islamists are just destroying everything. Oh, don't start with me in these religions. I don't, because you know what happens, right? If you say something criticizing one religion, you'll get told that you hate everybody that's that religion. So I don't even want to get started with that stuff. No, Jim, you know this stuff is way more complicated than people make it out to be. They just accuse you of like not knowing what you're talking about and try to say that if you run and you try hard, you can win. But there's just certain stuff that doesn't get discussed or mentioned. So it's really sad that people they don't think critically about things. No, if I ran and probably did lose, it would have you could make an entire book about all the external factors that wouldn't get reported. Because you can't just go on TV for free. You can't just run an advertisement over and over again because you don't, the network likes you and thinks you're pretty. Well, Jem, there's a lot of things that as a first time candidate I would need to have explained to me. Like for example, if I wanted to get signatures to be on the ballot, is there a specific type of paper that I'm supposed to have? What's the number? How do you open an account for your campaign? There's plenty of stuff that just it has to be gone over thoroughly because if you appear to be violating a law, even if you don't know that you're violating it, you can get in serious trouble with this stuff. No, I seriously considered running for the House seat that is in my district, but the reason I didn't was because of issues that I mentioned before, and also that again, these types of things are not explained by you just as a regular person who's never done this stuff before with people that are actually going to explain it. Start making phone calls. I did. I called the was it the FEC, and I wrote down what they said, but they're not the people that you go to like explain how many signatures and how what in what way do you gather these and submit them. Yeah, I can already see myself posing for my official portrait. I hope you would be asking real questions. I mean, like I would assume my first term is gonna be my only term, so I wouldn't even care. I'll say all kind of stuff about Pelosi and the rest of them because I'm not AOC. I'm not trying to like be there for 10 years and hope that one day I can run for president and not be hated by people who already don't like me. No, that's the best way to actually like do things when you're in office. Just assume your first term is your only term and just do whatever you want. And then if voters like it, they'll reelect you. If they don't, oh well. Right. But I'm just explaining to you that if I was hypothetically elected to the House, I really would not like care about trying to be friends with and of course there are people you can work with like Thomas Massey, for example. That's someone who's very I have a lot of agreements with on international issues, foreign policy, but I really wouldn't try to be friendly with those people because again, I'm assuming this is going to be my only term because after all the big things I do, right, as far as like rallying and holding stuff, just little different stunts you do to like get attention for yourself and to raise awareness of issues that I probably would have like the Democrats try to primary me. Koski Merchant says, "Yeah, you don't have to be friends with everyone in your party." Oh no, you have a whole bunch of members of prominent parties that hate each other. Let's not forget McCain and Trump. He was a war hero. He was a war hero because he was captured. I like people who weren't captured. Why do you think Biden won Arizona? Well, most of the blacks in Congress are people that are just there to go along to get along. I mean, you had Barbara Lee give this one vote that everybody remembers, right? The only member of the House to vote against the what was that, the Afghanistan resolution? I'm forgetting its name in 2001. Um, but then after that, what has she done? In the 2020 race, right? Instead of endorsing Sanders, she endorsed Harris. Um, Instead of when people were trying to get her to run for Speaker of the House, she refused to do that. So I don't know what any of these people are doing that you could remotely consider to be strong or different or showing some semblance of leadership. They're just there hoping that after Pelosi retires, they can all jockey for House Speaker. And it's I'm sorry, I'm not interested in being part of the patty cake gang. I'm not there. That's why I said I have no interest in having a career that is based around attempting to be friendly with people that I don't like and that I don't agree with, and that I know are just there to, get another term. The majority whip. Do you think I'm playing? I would rather have Liz Cheney as Speaker of the House than Nancy any day. Because if she's Speaker, nobody's going to say, "Well, when you criticize her, you are being sexist." Then, uh, she has passed many bills that are helping regular working class people. No, you would never see it. Well, I already explained why she is where she is, Akatsuki Merchant. So I want her to retire. I want Feinstein to. I remember with Feinstein, I voted against her twice. I voted against her in the primary and the general election with was that De Leon, and just we couldn't get rid of her. Like it was driving because I like the jungle primary because this is a blue state, so I think it should be two Democrats versus each other, or at least two left leaning people against each other. And it's like they we just couldn't get rid of her. Like I voted against her multiple times and it wasn't enough. Dude, she is awful. Man, I every time I think about how Boxer retired, I wish it had been the other way around. I wish Boxer had stayed and Feinstein had left. I would have preferred. In fact, Feinstein was actually, if I remember correctly, on Al Gore's vice presidential running mate list. Like she was considered for his VP slot, which would have been really crazy. I'm not even like a big Lieberman fan, but I'll take him over her any day. She's another old, like a stain on a white carpet. I just wish we could get rid of these people. Like, and I'm not even one of those term limit individuals because, like I said, I like Rokana. I don't want him to have to leave because he's in his third term. That's one of the reasons I support that those being around as long. Like voters should be the ones who determine how long someone is around. But it's just really crazy to me because it's like I don't know what any like what do I genuinely sit here sometimes I just look at them like just listen to them speak or look at their vote record. I'm like, what do people see in them? Like at least with Pelosi, I can say, okay, well, people have convinced themselves she's like this very inspirational woman, right? I should put that like the quotations for inspirational. But with Feinstein, like what is charismatic? Can anyone tell you anything she's done that's been good? The only time Feinstein ever led an issue was gun control, and that's only because she came to power due to the assassinations of the San Francisco mayor and was it Harvey Milk? So, that's like something that personally affected her in a way. But I'm really tired of these Like they don't do anything. They just sit there term after term, just and they get away with it because most people don't pay attention to this stuff. Roe violated his principles when he voted for the 40 billion. Well, like I said, man, if you look at all of these different members of the House, Senate, and you look in their records, you can always find some you don't like. Actually, one of the reasons that people were pushing for Nina Turner, like there's a lot of people who want her to run for president, for example, is because she has no recent voting record that they can sit there and like pick apart and complain, you know. Well, would I rather have Roe as senator than Feinstein? Absolutely. I'm just saying, it's really sad that we have like so many people in Congress that don't do anything. And actually, if they do something, it's usually awful. Yeah, that's why she has that seat. She's very wealthy. I told you, American politics are not about if you win or lose. It has nothing to do with your quality as a candidate. It is almost entirely based around how much money you have versus how much money your opponent has. Bench warmers. Dude, I'm so done with these. They see all that green just being thrown on them. You know, I remember this one guy said that a lot of politicians are like prostitutes, except with prostitutes, they're transparent about the fact that they're only like doing the things they do because of their like getting paid to do it. But then the politicians try to pretend they have like integrity and like they're consistent and they have views that are strong and it's all a joke. And they oh I miss him too. I used to watch his his show. And the only time I would ever have a problem with is when he would start, because you know how people are, they always like attach these labels. Socialism has brought the end of democracy. It's like, dude, I'm no one who even supports Sanders just sits around and throws out that word. We actually talk about issues. We talk about wealth inequality and like all these different conflicts that they'll spend hundreds of billions of dollars on. But if you want a $2 raise at your job, they tell you to go screw yourself. I mean, like I get sick of that just the generalizing crap, like actually explain what's wrong with positions. It's not even just being old school. I'm just tired of like, you know, having people throw these labels. Like if somebody says, "Oh, they're conservative," okay, I'm still going to ask, what's your position on this issue, that issue, this issue? He's still fighting the Soviets, and for him, the Korean War never ended. Dude, I swear, sometimes I turn on my TV and I hear them like talking about this person's a socialist and this person's and I really do feel like I'm watching like just a bunch of McCarthyism. Like when Trump was giving his conspiracy theory about the election being stolen, I could really picture him like I could just picture McCarthy like standing by him. He's like, yes, the election was stolen and we have proof of it. And we can actually show several million votes that are sitting behind a red box. Yeah, they're doing a red scare. When like you have no proof and you're convincing people their democracy is being overrode again with no evidence. It like literally the election was stolen conspiracy theory was like a mirror version of the Russiagate stuff. Remember they said that like Trump stole the 2016 election with Putin and they had Mueller investigating him and all other stuff. It was the same thing where it's one of these teams Democrat or Republican, doesn't like that they won or lost, whichever side it was. So they accuse the other side of using some illegitimate manner to go about getting these votes. I'm telling you, when Trump would say he had the election stolen from him, I could really picture like Joe McCarthy right behind him. Yes, we have proof that there are millions of votes that are being stolen and hidden in boxes, and we're going to show evidence. I'm going to do a press conference tomorrow. This cannot stand. You will see by the end of today that Trump will be getting his second term. Once these votes are counted. Oh my God. And at the end of Trump's speech, I'd like to thank the junior senator from Wisconsin. Isn't it true that Democrats are basically just Republicans? Well, Democrats tend to be more pro LGBT than Republicans are. But when it comes to fiscal issues, they are pretty similar. You have a lot of Democrats that support cutting taxes and just like opposed to raising the minimum wage. They're really not all that different from each other on economic stuff. At least a majority of them, I would say. Yeah, that's why I said I think both parties are pretty similar to each other. Well, Jam, listen, I was just trying to say that no. Let me explain to you why they're okay. They're not tolerant. Let me damn, where's this thing? I hate when comments get hidden. They're not tolerant because all these Democrats are great people and they care so much about the LGBT community and they want equal rights for total crap. Because remember, when Obama ran the first time, he was against gay marriage. He said he believed marriage between a man and a woman. And Hillary wasn't pro gay marriage until 2013, which still isn't even 10 years ago. The reason they are more likely to be pro LGBT stuff than Republicans are is because businesses that fund their campaigns like everybody. Okay. Businesses know if they want more money, they have to embrace every single person that can ever exist. Because again, they want customers, they want people to support their crap. So that's why they're not. I just want to explain this. They back gay rights, not all of them, but some of them only back it because they want their votes and because they're backed by corporations and other groups that support LGBT people because they want business from everybody, which they're inclusive because they have to be to sustain their business. The thing is, the Democratic donors who also love Republicans, they care because they can use it to deflect from the economy. Yeah, I'm just explaining that there are some politicians that have always been pro LGBT stuff, like Sanders, for example. But there are other ones who embraced it because of political expediency. It doesn't fit them to be, a bigot. Dude, I'll never understand why people care so much about like marriage being between a man and a like who like I've like I said, there's a part of me that gets the abortion stuff because I understand where somebody say, "How could you take an unborn?" Whatever. I can like comprehend it. I'll never be able to understand why someone really sits there tossing and turning at night. These two people of the same gender can get married. Like I told you, man, this some of this stuff doesn't make any sense to me. No matter how much someone explains, just like why does it? Who cares? Yeah, they pander because they want more money. I couldn't care less. It doesn't affect me at all. People get married to whoever they want to. The only time I care about two people getting married is if one of them's underage. That's the only time it should be illegal, or they're like non-consenting. Democrats raise a ton in the same bed. Oh no. Democrats raise a ton of money when Republicans are in charge. They literally want to lose, but it's beneficial for them. When they win, they actually are expected to do things. Yeah, that was something else that when they lose elections, it benefits them more because they can fundraise more. They can be like, I'm taking a stand against this new Republican Dude, I will not be surprised if you see a Pelosi email in 2025 and she's like, We need to stop President Cruz. Oh my God. It really, if I really, when I like just pay attention to this stuff, I feel like I'm in a comic book. Like everything stays the same, where it's just, oh my God. Yeah, they raise more when they lose. They are the only people on earth who can win and they benefit and lose and they benefit. Because if they win an election, they get the power. If they lose an election, they get more fundraising money, to help them with winning it the next time. But either way, it doesn't matter because they win either way. Like if you told me if I run for the House, I'm gonna become a member of the House if I win, and also get a salary of 2 million, which I know is not the actual rate. I'm just like giving you a hypothetical. And then if I lose, I'm gonna get signed to Fox News as a correspondent and make 3 million a year. I mean, hell, what incentive do I have to even care at this point? I'm benefited either way, anyway. Hell, losing's probably better because then I get to just sit on my behind and talk on TV for maybe like half an hour a day. In the meantime, China is growing and advancing. Well, they're not stupid like the U.S.'s leaders have been. They haven't been in a war in 40 years. They don't waste all their money on conflicts that their own country doesn't even care enough about to be invested in. Yeah, I definitely want to learn more about him. I usually just hear his name get thrown around. Oh, let me see. Chinese government is filled with scientists. American government is filled with corrupt warmongers and crazy fundamental Christians. Yeah, a bunch of people who are anti everything at home and anti everything abroad. That's why they go around and attack random countries that have nothing to do with them. Like I said, the US benefits from these conflicts because they get to spend a whole bunch of money from making weapons to sell to these different countries for their conflicts too. And those defense contractors funnel all those coins to these different politicians to keep them voting for these conflicts to continue and go on forever. That's why they call them the forever wars. Dude, every day it's just the oligarchy. Every day, just coins, 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 coins. And you know what's sad? It's like these lawmakers aren't even poor. Like, at least with me, I've told you about how hard it is to like get a job. At least, like, I'm not even trying to say it would be justifiable for me, but at least I could get it if it was someone that wasn't rich or wasn't well off. They're not even like destitute or lacking in any capacity. They're all rich and they just like need more and more coins. That's why I said money really does turn people into like these shells of human beings. It gets rid of any incentive to care about anything. Oh, what's the point? As long as I'm benefited, who cares? Yeah, they're loaded. Well, look, you can say the US sucks and you can say that Russia's leadership is awful as well. I mean, they're not like you can criticize multiple people at once. Something can be worse than another thing, and then both can still be bad. I'm sure China has its issues too, but like I said, as far as I know, they're not the ones that are participating in what was it, a literal genocide in Yemen where we bomb and starve children to help out our buddy Saudi Arabia. Dude, I'm telling you, money is just it's at the cause of everything. Like the reason most politicians have a degree is because when they go to those schools and they meet all their little rich friends or friends that are on their way to becoming rich, and they run like 10, 20 years later, they ask their friend for a loan, they give them 500,000 or $1 million. And it's like you get 5 or 6 of those and you've already won the election pretty much. And again, the US didn't used to be this way. God, I like and it's so sad because people really don't understand it's just that's why I said it's really sad that like things are not analyzed in the way that they should be and talked about as much. I can't stand Zelensky. Nice you mentioned Saudi Arabia. They spent 20 years preaching about how evil Muslims are while supporting and arming the most radical Muslim country in the world. Saudi Arabia funds terrorists everywhere. Well, that's what really like confuses me because the US sits here and talks about human rights and democracy, but then you're friends with a country like Saudi Arabia where, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no democracy and they abuse human rights all the time as well. So I don't really understand how but it's the same thing with the Israeli government where you talk about how screwed up this government is, destroying the lives of all these Palestinians, kicking them out of their homes, displacing them. What was that like 60, 70 years ago? And you get told you're anti Semitic. You haven't said one ill word about Judaism or anyone affiliated with that religion. You're talking specifically about a government and its screwed up actions, the same way you would talk about the American government or the Saudi Arabia government. But somehow you're anti Semitic for talking about a government. And remember, regular people don't do this garbage. It's only when you come on the computer or when you're listening to Fox News or one of these other stupid organizations. See, that's why I just can never take them seriously because you can't have a logical discussion with people where you just throw out all these terms. Oh, this person hates this religion, even though they said nothing about hating that religion, and expect me to want to participate in a discussion with you. Palestine has no cash. Yeah, that's why they're the one we prefer the least. Like I said, man, it's really sad. And by the way, don't let's get something else straight. Whenever one of these groups tells you that you're like causing bigotry against Jewish people when you criticize the Israeli government, even though you're not actually criticizing Jewish people. Remember, these TV anchors are the same douchebags that sit here. Remember, these people who claim to care so much about their fellow man and human beings and discrimination. They're the same douchebags who, when black people get murdered every day in Chicago, you don't see one word on TV, one shred of information about this presented at all. Don't ever let yourself be convinced that these people actually care about any human beings, just of their own good and free will. Yes, selective empathy, selective outrage. It's all the same. I told you it's really sad that you live in a world where people can get blown to pieces every day, both in your own country, because that happens in Chicago, and in other countries, and nobody cares. And some people don't care because they don't hear about it because it doesn't get reported. And some people don't care just because it's not happening to them. I've had people in like online say, "Why do you care so much about Yemen? You don't even live over there." Oh, with the triple L. Do you have a relative that lives in Yemen? It's like, why can't I just, as a human being, say, I don't like the fact that this group of people is being starved, being bombed. Maybe there's something wrong with that. Like, why do I have to have some personal stake as to be invested in, the fact that this is a screwed up thing? It's really funny that like they're like actually having empathy toward other people is so rare that you have to have some hidden agenda behind doing it. Like I don't make anything off of this website. Usually if I do a Yemen video, it'll get demonetized or barely get any views anyway. So there's no justifiable reason besides just not liking what's going on over there and wanting to talk about it to discuss it. No compassion, no sympathy, no ability to understand the pain of others. A lot of Americans are psychopaths. And I want you to also remember this, because I'm just gonna bring this up. So Farrakhan says actual anti-Semitic stuff, the Nation of Islam leader, but he made a really good point. He said, because people have actually compared him to Hitler, he pointed out that he has never killed a Jewish person, advocated for violence against Jewish people. So how does his rhetoric align with actual concentration camps? You see what I mean? Just like you have people who say, "Oh, racism." Oh, yeah, yeah. It's like, well, I mean, sure, but the Ku Klux Klan isn't stopping me from getting a job. They're not online telling chicks, "Don't go on a date with him. We must not allow him to get a girlfriend or a wife or ever procreate." No, that's regular women doing that. So I don't it's so funny how like if you're we're at a point now where these groups that are supposed to be like keeping a particular person or group of people down are pretty much doing nothing to you other than just not liking you. Because like I said, when I start thinking about like people actually keeping me down, I think of all those employers that wouldn't hire me. I think of all those chicks that wasted my time when I was trying to, like just get a date. Like I don't think of the Klan or um, any other supremacist group because they don't matter. They just sit there and they say racist stuff on a computer like everybody else does. Americans in general are apathetic. Yeah, it seems so. But I'm just explaining to you that, rhetoric is not the same as actually doing things to people. And like I said, they don't even like explain how what you said was anti-Semitic. Like I just said I don't like the Israeli government. And that makes you supposedly not like Jewish people. Like I say, anyone that actually thinks if you don't like a government, you hate a religion, you're an idiot. Just my opinion. If you're of the opinion that I think that I supposedly don't like a whole religion because of what a crappy government does, when I never criticize the religion itself, I think you're an idiot. Or you're purposely, trying to conflate the two. I should do that when I run for office. Hey, you don't want to vote for me? Well, maybe you just hate Catholics. I thought Farrakhan made a good point. I mean, like I don't dispute anti-Semitism at all, but again, he's not the person putting Jewish people in concentration camps or actually hurting them in any way besides saying something derogatory about them. So I don't that's why when people like were saying that he was black Hitler, I was rolling my eyes like, really? You serious? I just don't think it's an apt comparison. I really don't. I really had to think about like all the major politicians that don't have a degree, and the only one I could think of was that was the former governor from Wisconsin, Walker. He's the only one. And you know what's funny? I was on a website and someone pointed that out. They were like, "Hey, he doesn't have a degree," and people were like, "So what? Why are you such an elitist?" And it was funny because I wasn't even saying I was, like that was a reason. I'm just saying that like I know that if I like, let's say I win the House seat and I try to like run for Senate, I know at some point, and it could still occur if I ran for the House. You will have people mention that as something and like make it a thing that they ask about over and over. But again, I don't feel bad about it because, like I said, I'm not going to bankrupt myself by going to one of these thousands of dollars wanting schools on the hope that, oh, after I get this piece of paper, people might actually vote. Forget it. Forget it. So, because remember, I explained that when you run for office, you have people who will vote or be opposed to you for pretty much anything. So if it wasn't that, it'd just be something else. So I said, I just I really I can't take the stuff seriously. Like as far as like, oh, I should have done this. I should have gone because people all they do is find reasons to be against stuff. And you know what I'm talking about? They, just they're you. I've seen people. I will not vote for this person. Why? Oh, because they're not originally from this state. Just any reason they can come up with. Hell, when we were talking about the Liz Cheney stuff, we were discussing the fact that you have a lady who voted with Trump over 90% of the time while she was in Congress and he was president, meaning that she overwhelmingly supported his positions. And now I'm being told that she's a rhino who no longer reflects the views of her. And I'm like, what? This one vote made her all past votes in support of him not matter, no longer be of substantive. I mean, like, I don't. That's why I said that, like, if when people want to oppose someone, they will find any reason they can, and it's why I don't take this stuff seriously. I will not vote for him because his nurse is too. Yeah, you had people who said they weren't going to vote for Obama because of his ethnicity, and you had some even more insane people who wouldn't vote for him because he had never served. In the military. And again, it's like I have respect for people that are veterans, but I will. And when I was younger, I actually did consider joining the Navy, but I will never serve because I think the conflicts we're involved in are not life or death. They're really stupid, and I just don't think I have been treated as a human being with the level of dignity that I should to feel as if the U.S. is worth dying for. So you can get mad at me. You can say I'm unpatriotic. I don't care. Because, like I said, most people, what is it, only 1% are in the military? So most people feel either the same way I do or are doing the same thing. They're not interested. Yeah, veterans are treated like garbage. Remember, 27% of the homeless are, what is it, like a whole quarter, a little bit over a quarter, are veterans. Ukraine is the new South Vietnam. I hope not. I'm not looking to stay over there for 5 or 6 years. I always have to remind myself how long that thing was. Veteran hospitals, what a joke. Dude, listen, when you're a veteran, this is the way it goes. If you die overseas, nobody remembers you, nobody cares about you. You get vaguely mentioned by people that aren't related to you during Veterans Day. And if you survive, you get treated like garbage too. So, like, seriously, if I was a veteran and I came back and I was homeless, I would almost have wished they could have killed me overseas because then I wouldn't have to come back and be treated like garbage by the country that I risked my life for. What a joke. Had me over there fighting for oil and all this other. This is just stupid. Yeah, it's awful. And remember, as veterans are sitting on the streets, catching whatever types of diseases, cold at night, have to eat out of a dumpster. What are these politicians, most of whom have never served, doing? They're getting paid to deliver speeches. They're getting paid to vote on bills. They're making millions from just running and getting in airplanes and sitting up in front of a crowd of people wearing suits. I mean, it's like a cartoon. Like, this is literally the Twilight Zone. The people that risk their lives when they're in the military every day for our freedom supposedly get treated like garbage, and then the ones that do nothing get uplifted. They get to become millionaires, have their faces on TV every day with a whole bunch of interviews. The literal Twilight Zone couldn't make up a story more insane than this. Well, in Rome they might have been, but certainly not in modern America. In modern America, I feel like becoming a soldier is a noble decision, but it's also one that allows a lot of people. It could be whether it's your commanders, whether it's whichever respective president that's in office while you're there, to treat you very poorly. Yeah, there were actual benefits. But I'm sorry, I just don't think veterans are treated well, and I think they're part of another group of people that gets treated like garbage over here. It's exploitation. Yeah, because there are a lot of patriotic Americans who genuinely believe in democracy and all of the other values that are discussed here. But the problem that we have is you have a lot of people who see them as just a statistic. Oh, this many people served in the military. Okay, we can send troops over there. So when they die, they feel nothing because hey, that was just part of the job. But it's crazy. Everybody talks about how like police officers are bigots and they treat minorities terribly. But if you notice, we actually have more respect for officers than we do for veterans. Because with officers, like when one of them or two of them or three or like a couple of them get killed, you have the president fly out to give a speech or to like deliver some kind of remarks. Um, and like people, it's actually like a crime to kill them, and people will go put in jail to get for assassinating one of them. But with veterans, you can do whatever you want to one of them overseas, and they're just another number. Look how massive the USA is. Why do we have homeless? Build homes for God's sake. Make veteran colonies. Don't get me started on the police. Well, one of the reasons you have homelessness in my state of California is that it costs too damn much to just. I mean, if you see some of the apartments over here, and it's like 1,800 every month just to like be in some place that's like the size of one room, it's insane. Don't get me started on the police, buddy, hero worship. Right, but I'm saying that you understand how veterans don't get accused of mistreating people of color, but they get treated worse than police who, as part of their job, get accused of treating people of color very poorly. You do you understand what I'm saying of how it's ironic that the people who are doing what is pretty much universally agreed to be a noble thing get treated like trash if they survive and come back here. But then the officers who are hated by big segments of the population, when one of them dies, they actually, get like celebrated and it's a bad thing. And we remember this officer. And like I said, man, I'm just tired of the hypocrisy. I really am sick of it. Yeah, the USA is huge. Again, you have like homelessness is a combination of several factors. Employers that don't want to hire anybody, places that cost too damn much, and just it's not oh, this person decided that they would not work. Remember, I told you about last year, there was a place I was working at that would barely give me any hours, to where before they fired me, I was thinking of quitting because I couldn't make it off of what they were off of them barely even using me. So it's ironic that the same person who will quit a job because he wants to work more is being told by people who don't know him that he doesn't want to work at all. Like that's why I said that, like, when people accuse you of things, they're just world fallacy. They don't think, they just say what comes to their mind because they want to believe, oh yeah, people who don't have a job, they don't want to work, and people who are homeless, they're all so lazy, including those veterans that risk their lives for our freedoms. Yeah, yeah, everything's right. Yeah, everything's going correct. Cops just suck. It's a cultural thing with them. Force police to have liability insurance. We need new ideas. Yeah. Well, you're not going to get new ideas electing the same group of politicians, of politicians over and over again. I remember what I told you about how all the like overwhelmingly politicians get reelected. Like you're more likely to win your second term than you were to win your first term, pretty much universally, right? Except for very rare occasions. But then Congress only has a what 17, 18, 15% approval rating. I mean, like, how does that make any sense? So you know what that means, right? It's kind of like how there was this one guy who said he didn't like pastors in the black community because they've been lining their pockets and like benefiting financially off of people, like actually God fearing people giving them money. And people will say to him, like, not my pastor. It's the same thing with the politicians because they'll sit there and you'll tell like people will admit, yeah, politicians don't do anything. And then when it's time to like vote, they're like, not my politician. That's why they like Congress has this low approval rating, but all these politicians keep getting voted back into office like over and over again, even though they supposedly suck and are not good. Yeah, low expectations. Like I said, people don't care. They'll just vote for, and I'm gonna keep saying this. If I ran for office and lost, a very big portion of the reason for that is going to be being out fundraised. And because a lot of people don't know who I am, because this is a very large state, and you're going to see people who will vote for someone just because they recognize their name. Seriously, the last election we had over here, I voted for a whole bunch of Green Party candidates I'd never even heard of, just because I like that they get some votes. And if I don't like the Democrat, then they're the next best thing. Dude, the only way you're going to ever see a third party in Congress is if like I remember Sanders, for example, what he did was when he ran for Senate in 2006, he won the Democratic primary, and then he ran as an independent, so the Democrats couldn't run someone against him. The only way I could win and be part of a third party is if I ran for the House as a Democrat and then switch parties to Green after like getting inaugurated, after winning the election. That's the only way. Any other way, it's over. And I'm not trying to be negative, but I'm just looking at trends. There are no third party candidates in Congress. It doesn't mean their candidates suck. Again, there's external factors. People don't, they're complacent. They don't vote for things that are different. And if you want to change things, but also are trying to win to be able to do those things, you're gonna have to make certain concessions. So I would still run as a Democrat even if I think their leadership is terrible. I haven't heard of Bachman in so long. She just vanished. Dude, it feels like every election cycle, there's like this one woman, and then like she gets a little bit of attention, then she dips, and no one ever hears from her again. Like I'm telling you, after the 2008 election, every time I heard of Palin, it was, oh, she might run for president, then she didn't. And then like the next time was when she endorsed Trump, and then that was pretty much it. And then she's like after what's his name, Don Young, the Alaska representative, when he died, that's when I finally heard of Palin again because she was running for the House. But it's like 2008 it was Palin, 2012 it was Bachman, and then I don't think there was one for 2016 because I don't want to because Clinton, she did better than any of the rest of them. And then for 2020, you could argue that it was Gabbard because I only ever see her on Fox every like 8 months. or and I don't think Gabbard is nuts. I think she's really good on international issues. I guess you could also say Marianne Williamson. Like every election cycle, there's a woman who gets a little bit of attention, and then they bounce, and you almost never hear her again. By the way, I don't know if you saw my 2024 Republican primary video, Jim, but I was looking at that list that they made on the Hill of like who the potential candidates are, and I was like, there's because they said Tim Scott, and I'm like, look, I don't like going around and accusing everybody that doesn't agree with me of being racist, but there is no way Republicans are going to nominate an African American in the next for president in the next 30, 40, 50 years. No way. You look at every other person of color that runs in their primary and how many of them ever actually win anything. I know Carson got a few delegates. I know Alan Keyes did okay, but like actually like a serious challenge against another person, you're not seeing. No, Scott, he doesn't even want to do it. That's what's the funniest part about it. And they also said Haley and who's the other lady that they mentioned? It was her and somebody else, I think. But I said like no, the Republicans are not going to nominate a woman for president. I'm sorry, like I don't see them nominating women or minorities for president. I really don't. Yeah, he might go again, but I don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to be for them what Jesse Jackson was in the 80s for the Democrats. A person that might have some decent ideas of things, right? Or at least some stuff you might agree with, but not enough traction. And I shouldn't even be comparing him to Jackson because Jackson did way better in his respective runs. Yeah, allying with Trump was the best thing he did because he got himself a job. Only black member of Trump's cabinet, which I thought was insane. I thought it was insane because a lot of people were like saying, "Oh my God, he's the only African American in the cabinet." Like Obama's cabinet just had a whole bunch of black people in it. It's like, are you serious? Really? Because remember, it was during Obama that we had, a black Secretary of State. That's when Colin Powell first showed up. Oh wait, no, it was under Bush. Sorry. Yeah, I've never really had an issue with Sharpton like all that much. At least not in like modern times. Yeah, I know that was the joke I was making that Bush is supposedly the one that was against because they say every Republican is a racist, right? And they pretty much say every person is racist because I've had people call me that too, for the stupidest reason ever. You would like and prefer for the woman that you marry or date to be the same ethnicity as you. So they're stupid like that. But yeah, that was the point I was making that Obama didn't even have that many people of that ethnicity and like whatever. It was funny that people were now trying to say mostly white or mostly non-black cabinets are like this new thing. It's like, are you serious? Because other than Holder and Lynch, which doesn't even count because they were both basically the same spot, he had what was that Jed Johnson, I think, and it's like very, very few is what I'm getting at. Just very few black people in this cabinet. And they want to sit there and criticize Trump for that. It's like, no, he's just keeping up another trend. That's why I said, man, this stuff is such a joke. When I listen to some of the people that report the news, I just sit there rolling my eyes. Dude, black women get super angry when you don't want to date them and them only. Right, but you had some other like I said in my video, my preference are black women. And this someone like in my comment section said I was racist because I had a preference. And I was like, well, hell, you have a whole bunch of white chicks that won't date anyone who's not white. You don't see me going around saying they're bigots. But if I have a preference, meaning I like this the most, but I'm open to other things, that makes me, like it's stupid. That's why I said every time we get caught up on this person was racist, I just roll my eyes and just I don't even want to talk about it because they just throw that word around so much over the stupidest stuff. Like whatever, just idiots, man. Dude, people don't even say things that make sense anymore. They just come up with stuff. They're like, I got this person. It's like, no, you just use another buzzword that has no bearing on this conversation. I met this one Asian lady on Discord who I don't like romantically at all because she said some very disgusting things to me. Um, but if she came out and said she wants to date an Asian man, I don't know how that's racist. Like I don't know why people are not allowed to just have a particular thing that they would like. Like I don't understand. I really don't. Yeah, it's all chatter. It's all garbage. But it's funny because it's like we're gonna try to make you feel bad for wanting something that's normal. Like most people prefer to, if they date someone of the same ethnicity. So I don't understand where like if this is a decision I espouse, I'm somehow discriminating against. That's why I said it's stupid. Dude, my favorite thing was when this one person was like, LBJ was racist because he said the N word in the recording or what. It's like, but you guys say white people who don't say the N word are racist all the time. So I like, you know, it doesn't matter. I told you that like the funniest thing to me about the 60s is you'll call the pres so if like Johnson passed the Civil Rights Act, right, and the Voting Rights Act, but he's racist, but then the segregationists who fought against those bills because they would help black people are also racist. So if you support civil rights, you're racist. And if you oppose them, you're racist too. I'm telling you, man, they don't even think. They just say whatever. Jim, I want you to explain this to me. If you support civil rights, you're racist. And if you oppose them, you're racist too. Like I'll say, oh yeah, Johnson's one of my favorite presidents. Yeah, I don't. In fact, actually, one of the reasons I've been holding off on doing anything relating to him, like a documentary or some kind of like biographical work, is because I want to get Robert Caro's 4-volume series on him and like read that and then like incorporate elements of it in there. Well, they listen. Um, I'll put it to you like this: the reason Kennedy gets like lionized is because he didn't really do anything. So a lot of people like him because he gave these like inspirational speeches, but like nothing of substance. And with Johnson, it's a lot easier to start the really insane, ridiculous, like hate boner that they have. Like you can say, "Oh, I hate him on international issues because of Vietnam," and then you can also say, "I hate him on domestic issues because they try to like accuse him of being behind like black families not being together anymore." Which, like I said, is total crap because you know I exist after those laws were passed, want to date a black woman, and if she says no, I like I don't know how what the Johnsons ghost possess her. Like people are so stupid. It's the woke mentality speeches, and he was handsome. But also because he didn't do anything, he can get picked by both sides. Conservatives can say they like him because he was an NRA member, and he like he because I believe most conservative people, at least in the modern era, are not like they would say they vaguely support civil rights, so they can like kind of own him for that too, and then progressives can pretend he was more liberal than he actually was. It's really funny how it's the same thing with Martin Luther King, where like conservatives like him because he was a religious leader, right? And again, like inspirational speeches, whatever. And then liberals can like him because of his actual positions, and they like both sides can pick. He was so waspy. Dude, you know what's the funniest thing? Like, imagine lionizing Kennedy and then treating his actual living brother like trash for 40 years. Like I'm telling you, they if you saw one of these days, I just want to go on like the Wayback Machine and just look up like all articles that were written about Ted while he was alive, like from like 69 up until he died in 2009. It was awful. They turned that man into the main character of American politics for like 30 something 40 years. Like really from just the time he came in the Senate. All they would do was treat him like garbage. They would threaten him. They would say, you're going to end up like your brothers. And then they have the nerve to sit here and act like they're decent human beings. Seriously, dude, I remember because I told you that he died when I was 11. I remember watching Mark Levin and the rest of those conservatives. Today is the 40th anniversary of Chappaquiddick. And it looks like that old graying Ted Kennedy is giving a speech today in the Senate. I'll never get over the irony of that. You lionize Kennedy and act like he was the greatest president ever, but then you treat his living brother like trash for 40 years. You can't make this stuff up. Yes, that's exactly right, Jim. You can't make this stuff up. One of the videos I was thinking of making was what if Robert Kennedy wasn't assassinated? And I was going to talk about how like if he had the same lifespan as Ted, like if he just because he wasn't unhealthy like JFK was. So if RFK like actually lived until the 2000s, which there's a very good chance he would have, because again, no health issues when he died. He actually would have stopped Hillary because that New York seat that he had was the same one that she ended up getting in the 2000 election. So if he stayed on that seat for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 terms, similar to how his brother had, she would have never gotten that seat. And then she either would have had to have looked for another seat in some other state, or she would just never entered the Senate, period. Yeah. Oh, I believe he would have stayed in the Senate until he died too. I think he would have ran for president if he didn't win in 68, probably one more time. And then that would have been like him just because they were both like very committed to public service. So there's no like there's no way he would just like sit at home in his rocking chair, Dude, he really would have stopped Hillary if he lived and stayed on that seat until 2000, which there's a very good chance he would have. She would not have been senator, which means she probably would not have run for president in 2008. That's really crazy to think about. The super predator. Hey, I didn't vote for her, so I don't feel bad. And what did Farrakhan say about Hillary and Trump? Vote for Hillary, vote for Trump, and you go to hell with both of them. Not me. Oh my God. I have the interview clip. That's from his Breakfast Club interview with from like 2016. If you ever want to see it, it's in like I can actually play it on the stream eventually if I just like queue it up. That's like my favorite. I would love to write a book about the 2016 election and have that as the title or as like the quote in it. Yeah. Dude, I really love the matter of fact, give me a second. Ugh. Ugh. I'm one of the last people that actually still reads. This is Neil Gabler's book Catching the Wind, Edward Kennedy and the Liberal Hour, 1932 to 1975. I'm on the fourth chapter. This book's 800 pages. And I've really been enjoying it because it's very revealing in terms of just its scope and depth, and really like it's basically trying to be for Ted Kennedy what Robert Caro and Taylor Branch were for LBJ and Martin Luther King. But again, I'll never get over like he just like with Bush. I was there again. I wasn't there for that much of it, but toward the tail end of his life, those like I remember being a little kid and seeing like little excerpts of Fox. The old graying senator from Massachusetts is giving, and remember, I didn't know about the presidents or any of that stuff, and just as the more I read and read, I'm like, they took JFK and lionized him and turned him into an icon while they treated his brother like crap for 40 years. That is going to be the number one thing I remember about that whole family. And just how screwed up American politics is. The negativity was over the top. I mean, like I said, when you get to a point where you get mentioned and stuff that has nothing to do with you, you know you've made it. And they were really gross. They were just I've seen some of the articles they wrote and some of the like audio that's been saved from back then. They treated that man horribly. I told you American politics is such a joke. Like they don't even care. They just say whatever. They accuse people of things they didn't do. By the way, those two I actually took these two things out of there. They're I've been using them as bookmarks when I come back to reading it. Um I just this has been a really political stream. I didn't expect it to be, but it's gone that way. And like I said, I'm someone that does want to run for the House, like, or at least that's something I've been thinking about. But you have to have someone explain the stuff to you. You have to be able to do research. And I just there was a lot of stuff that was going on during this cycle to where I didn't feel up to doing it. So well, yeah, it's all opinions, but that's what's disturbing. Like I've had people come on my stream and try to like argue with me. Why do you like Johnson? I'm like, dude, I don't owe you an explanation. Seriously, if I had to go on, imagine like what would I look like every time somebody makes a video about how they like Trump? I go in the comment section trying to like argue with each individual Trump supporter. I would never get any sleep. Like that's weird. No, you will not be seeing a documentary on Johnson or Carter or Truman or who else? Maybe yeah, like basically you won't see one of those three anytime soon because I'm actually trying to like read stuff about them. People getting upset because of what ifs. Very few facts. Like I said, that stuff about the homeless, you can look it up, and I even have the statistics in a on Google Docs. Like I can send you the link and you can read it for yourself. I'm not making any of this stuff up. There have been no fabrications. If I espouse an opinion, I say I think. I don't try to pass it as fact. So I don't feel bad. But anyways, Jim, I'm getting kind of tired, so I'm gonna get off of here. Thanks for showing up. Thanks, Akatsuki Merchants. I don't know what to call the other person that had like the face as their name. And I will finish one of those two documentaries, if not this week, then by the end of next week. I've got literally half of the first one almost done or like finished. It's getting made. It's just C-SPAN's website is being a pain in the backside. But if it comes down to it, I just won't have any clips until part two. So thanks for showing up. I appreciate it and have a good rest of your weekend.